did write down, my gosh, as fast as I could, what everybody was saying,
Okay.
you know, and just, yeah. So we had talked about, before, you know, just looking at, what, I'm looking for our notes for our last thing. Okay, now I'm ready, Wendy. All right, so, before the interactive read aloud, we had talked about some of the places that you were going to stop and talk for that strategic thinking, and looking at that. So when I was writing down what you were asking, and then what they were saying of that. So if you wanted to, we could look through, look and kind of just see,
Yeah.
But before we really get into that, I don't know, what anything you want to say, talk about that you noticed, or
About the students or about myself?
we can think about both, but let's think about the students.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Think about the students. What kind of thinking?
I think that, well, in the beginning, the part where we talked about I think they had a hard time. They were not getting the part of they kept saying he was jealous, and so I was you know what I mean. So trying to get them to really understand. I mean, I think by the end of the book, they came around and understood. But that part where we we really started to talk about it, I don't think they really understood that part. They didn't know how to describe him. I mean.
Yeah,
Choosing the word jealous to me was, you know what I mean? But, I mean, they supported it with a reason why.
See why he's jealous, but you're knowing that,
that's not really what he's feeling. So.
And but you did, I mean, do you know, you went back and you redirected them to that part. You were like, but he's evil and dangerous. Mm-hmm. And they, to reiterate that and get them thinking again. It was like you were just kept trying to extend that to get them to really, and then the one, whenever he said, the one boy, when he said, I know what what among us means.
Oh, yeah. Jonathan.
Yeah. And then, he said it was he's going to betray them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do, and Landon too, at the end of it, when that light bulb went off, where he was like, I told you.
Yeah. He got it. And
yeah.
It was so exciting to see him being like that.
So I think by the end of the story, I was, happy that they came around. They understood that it wasn't the broom that, that she had given them, and that, she painted the broom to look like the reasoning for all that. So I think at the end they kind of picked up on it, but getting them to that point.
And we had talked too about, would they do some of the strategic actions without your prompting?
Yeah. And the one day with the picture, he did pick up that from talking about the scriptive words. He did then notice her face.
Yeah,
so
he
in the
went
illustration,
straight to that picture.
Yeah.
And so really at that, whenever he's looking at that, I'm just kind of wondering what strategic thinking was he doing, or was there a couple different strategic? Because it's not happening all just individually.
Yeah.
But what he would have been doing at that point. Because so whenever you're using those illustrations, I think there's a couple different layers of that has to go on,
right?
To get to what those illustrations are all about.
We talked about what a widow is, and I wanted to come back around to that at the end, and I didn't. And I did after the fact. I just did right now because I wanted to see. I said, what, guys, I forgot. We talked about what a widow is. Thinking about the title of the book, what do you think? Was it a good title? Why do you think the author did that? And they did, and they were like, because the broom was doing the chores like the husband would be doing. And the one said, I think it was the husband controlling the broom so that the wife was helping. Yeah. So, and one used the word, it's like reincarnation, he said. It's like, what?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
wow.
So they did get it, you know what I mean? But yeah, so I wish I would have, we would have done that at the time, because that was the whole point of, talking about what a widow is, like you said. But, so I mean, yeah, so I was happy with that at the end. They did, get that. Or at least had some meaningful, reasoning as to why it would have been called that.
Yeah. And so when they said that about he thought it was the husband
Yeah, controlling the broom.
hindering that.
Mhm.
So what kind of thinking were they doing at that point?
And, well, am I looking at this wheel? Let's see.
I need one over here too.
Would it be like synthesize? I just think,
Oh,
maybe?
taking
Like
something.
the understanding, yeah, like new knowledge, taking that as, understanding now what a widow is, and
Mhm.
understanding that, you know what I mean?
And then
that maybe the
understanding,
husband
like,
was
what
wanting,
what the broom was
Yep,
doing,
right.
and that role.
it was the
of
way of the
broom.
husband helping his wife, maybe, I don't know, to not
Yeah.
be there, but I don't know. What do you think?
And I think just even asking that question, was the widow's broom a good title then?
Mhm.
That's really getting them to do some, critiquing and analyzing,
Mhm.
thinking really critically about, is that an appropriate title,
For the book. Yeah. And we did the Post-its, and it's so funny because every single one of them ended up, because I didn't say you had to have a fantasy book,
Mhm.
because it could be realistic, I want to know why. But when they all came to the Carpenter Share, every single one of them had a fantasy book. Like they all went for, you know what I mean? So it wasn't, they all had reasons, but it was funny that they all picked a fantasy book. None of them went to realistic fiction, was able to say well, this isn't, it's realistic fiction because of this.
Mhm.
They all went straight for that fantasy because that's what we did.
What you just did.
What we just did, yeah.
It's amazing as teachers how once we do that, they all,
Yeah.
we really we can gravitate them towards,
Towards what, yeah.
just by read aloud. And then if you have another Chris Van Allsburg, or I have more Chris Van Allsburg, if they get into him, some of his I think are a little more, they could get more of a surface level understanding,
Mhm.
but sometimes his books, because they're creepy like this one,
Yeah.
that they get where you have
A
to
little
really
beyond
get
it,
into
right?
some
Yeah.
symbolism and
Mhm.
some much deeper,
Yeah.
thinking that goes on with truly understanding his author's message and his
Right.
theme.
And there was, my hunter with his personification. I told you he was going to throw that
And he
word
threw
out.
it out, and he sure did.
I knew it would be him.
Yeah. And looking at some of the other things you said, whenever you were asking about then to show those that you've been talking about, those descriptive words, to show the feelings, and then how, what are some of the words they noticed? How about the girl who right away,
Yeah.
her heart jumped?
Yeah.
I was like, really? It said that? I didn't even pick up on that,
Mhm.
And, so she was doing some summarizing there, going
Yeah.
back to explicitly what the text had said,
Right.
And then someone else said she got scared and she had her mouth open. And if we look at what kind of thinking that they were doing at that point with she got scared.
Mhm.
They were talking about the widow looking at the broom, and they kind of went, you had asked what were some descriptive words that show that feeling.
Mhm.
They went straight to I'll tell you how she is feeling,
Right.
Which I think they were getting a little, they weren't necessarily matching up with what you were asking them,
Right.
but were they still showing some strategic thinking?
Yes.
Yeah. By doing that inferring of how she was,
She was
feeling,
based
you
on,
know?
yeah.
And then somebody had said, she has her mouth open, which would be more of that analyzing,
Right.
looking at
that illustration.
how does the author draw her like that, and why, to show us that,
Mhm.
So just
See what
thinking
else
of,
you wrote in it.
yeah, I had down that I know you can barely read it, but it's so why is she scared? What is happening? And they were saying it's moving by itself, and somebody else said I would be happy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do too, yeah. We're all like-
There's a broom to clean the
yeah,
house.
and then this
yeah.
is the part where Mr. Spivey comes. Why do you think this was the part where it started about how Mr.
He's
Spivey
jealous.
was, and he's
Yeah.
jealous.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I agree with John.
I agree with John.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah. But you can see they're starting to build off of
Oh,
each
that
other.
goes- Right, yeah.
You know?
having that
And then
conversation.
whenever I noticed that, like, a couple different times throughout this, you were like, you know, so what did you guys say?
Mm-hmm.
And you were helping build that community there by pointing that out to them, you know, and being like, what did the two of you say together? What did you guys think over here?
Right.
You know?
I even think once one of them said, I think it was Calatina, she said, whoever her partner was, you know,
Mm-hmm.
John and I talked about, or, you know what I mean? So they are, you know, making
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Building that together.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing that they are doing some strategic thinking,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and we want to get more and more of that out. I'm wondering if there were some times when we maybe could have, where maybe if they had gone a little bit deeper,
Mm-hmm.
if that would have helped them with that part about understanding how he was feeling.
Right.
I honestly don't know. I'm honestly like thinking of this question right
Right.
now. You know what I mean? Like where could, because I think that happens sometimes. Because you know, like that's a very natural, like you would want that broom.
Mm-hmm.
Like them as like as a person, you'd be like, I want a broom like that lady.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like they were connecting with that character and wanting that broom, but not understanding that that character was thinking something
Something
different.
right.
You know?
And even after repeating, you know what I mean, how the words he was using,
They
they still
Wanted
kept
to
saying
go
he
back.
was jealous.
Mhm.
So I think it's more of, maybe it's,
Even when they asked, I think he will try to make this like his, and they were going to ask her. I wonder ask her how she made the broom do that, so he can do it to his own.
oh, yeah.
And it was like, no, he doesn't. Even,
He
thinks the thing
doesn't
is
want the broom.
possessed.
He wants it to be
want
gone,
it.
yeah.
Without using the word possessed with
Yeah.
our third graders,
Surprised
but
he didn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But then here, when that kid went to the betraying part and making that inference,
Yeah.
maybe at that point, if that would have been where to go a little bit deeper with that and have him have done some more explaining,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
You
kind
know,
of,
and I think too, a lot of it with them, and this happens in the, you know, a lot in the beginning, it's like getting them to use other words than just mad and sad and happy, and using more, you know what I mean, descriptive words, and I
and
think
that was
just
such a strong
exposing
word,
them
you
to,
know?
yeah, to more, you know,
Yeah.
ways of, you know, expressing versus, I don't know.
And even the word
And I think that
jealous,
comes
even
up
if it
tech-
wasn't the
like,
the,
yeah.
what we were, you know,
Wanting them
what's
to do-
really going on
Yeah.
in that story. I don't, you know, he wasn't really jealous, but even the word jealous is
a bigger,
a bigger, more descriptive word than just being mad
that
or
is
sad,
sad,
or,
yeah,
you know, and then that with that betraying.
yeah. Betray, that's a big word, yeah.
I know.
That's like-
It is. He is really, and that's really what the guy was afraid of. He was
Yeah.
afraid this thing's gonna. And they even said something about he was gonna, gonna destroy their homes and grow bigger,
Yeah.
and then with the hurting the people.
And that I think came from that part of we're all going to be sorry
Yeah.
if
so,
it stays.
so maybe
yeah.
that extra line there
Yeah.
about that we're being sorry. You know.
Yeah.
And then they went in to do a little bit of predicting about that destroying their homes and grow bigger and bigger. So,
I do think, I mean, I don't know, even if we're just looking at the wheel, I feel like more of the questioning and more of their answers are coming from the beyond and about versus just that within, which
Oh,
is
definitely. Don't you think?
I think
Yeah.
is a good thing. So,
hmm I think across the board,
yeah.
you know.
And again, just, you know, like we said, it's a different way of looking at the text. It's just a different way of, I think you now deliberately think, okay, we need to ask these questions versus, you know what I mean?
And you know what? And one thing that came out with Dr. Fing's visit here, and I went through. We did like a debriefing with the other grades, but I didn't get to debrief with you guys because that was whenever she was here.
Yeah.
So we couldn't. But it was interesting when she went through and talked about even like her planning of her interactive read alouds, how she was saying she finds those spots where she really feels like that strategic thinking, where it's where those aha moments, or
Yeah.
the moments whenever you're, those, where as a reader you naturally are like, oh my gosh, or oh, you have that stronger emotion maybe going
Yeah.
on at that, but then it's left more open so that she gives them that time to have that discussion and to do that thinking and explain their thinking at that time, but leaving that question more open so that it can allow for those different, do you know what I'm saying? Different things to come into play.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't know, that kind of changed, honestly, even just changed the way I'm looking at like my stopping points and where and how I'm asking questions and that.
Well, sometimes even the kids, them saying, just to take one of them to say something,
I know,
to
yeah.
have some, another student, like, maybe that light bulb now went on for them, just by hearing, another student.
Which kind of
Or
goes
to-
back to
yeah.
what we were saying about with Hunter. Wonder like what the things that he says, if
Right.
it helps
It
those
helps the other
students,
students to go a little bit deeper, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it is, and then there's it's interesting. I think to look at this and look at all the different type of strategic thinking that was going on.
In just,
It's
what,
crazy.
20 minutes?
Yeah, and just within
15 minutes.
within that one little quick conversation, there was summarizing, inferring, analyzing, inferring again, making connections, their synthesis, they're doing all of these different, this is going on, it's just giving them that chance to, talk about that and explore that.
Yep.
And then even at the end with the synthesizing, because they were putting it all together to say so they could live happily ever after.
Yeah. She would live with a broom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was funny. I'd never heard anybody explain it like happily ever
Happily
after,
ever
and I
after.
was like, oh, really? And happily ever
Happily
after,
after with
in
a
a
broom.
Yeah, and I think you were like, yeah, the neighbors were all gone.
It sure is.
There's no more
my
pesky
broom.
neighbors around, but and then you went right into that reading workshop lesson. And you know what? One thing I was going to say. So I was looking at the those off in the OSTAC behavior. Lori, they were on task.
Okay.
They were, and even somebody who was even if they were squirming or fidgety or something, I didn't feel like it affected those other ones that were around them, or even themselves so much they got so distracted that they weren't.
Listening or
Yeah.
didn't know what was going on.
You know?
happening. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I thought they were all there, from what I could see.
Good.
And a variety of them were sharing, and whenever you did the turn and talk, they were like, there wasn't really anybody I didn't think that was so, I don't know what's going on.
They didn't have anything to say. Or, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then even with the reading workshop, when all the different evidence they had from that text of the things that couldn't happen, they had such a good variety of different examples, and they were all from there, so.
Good.
So moving forward, thinking about the next interactive read aloud, is there some direction or something that you would like, I want to build on that or hone in on?
I think I obviously want to make sure that I get to those more in-depth questions. And I guess for me too, when we get to that, like this time when they weren't getting it, like how do you know what I mean? To bring them back around without me just telling them, you know what I mean? Like getting some questioning going that I can kind of get them in the right direction.
And I think
but-
you and having worked with you, I know this about you. You are very, very respectful of them and their opinions and their thoughts as people. I think somebody could have said, and then the UFO came down, and you would have been like, really? A UFO? What do you know about? Maybe, not instead of like somebody would be like,
no.
no, you're wrong. That would never have happened in this book. That doesn't go. You really honor their thinking. And I think that's that hard part between like honoring their thinking, but then if they're really off task, going, hey, wait a minute, let's look back at this and look.
Yeah.
And
so, and there's always going to be, maybe not always, but a lot of times there is going to be that where they're, kind of not going in the direction you want them to go.
Yeah.
And
Or
getting,
just the direction that the book really is getting to.
Yeah.
You know what and you know what though, I think that happens because we're learning, and learning is messy, but at least now we can see it. We're getting those kids talking where before they may have sat there and just thought that nicely to themselves
and nobody
never
was
told
telling
anybody.
you it wasn't. Yeah. Yeah.
So
but
I wouldn't worry about like not telling them, because I think you really do it in a way of you're very respectful to them. And I think even if you would say, wait, let's go back and look at these pages and that, they would be right there with you.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't be like, oh, she's just telling me when I'm wrong. No, I think you would have them with you by your language and the way you do it in that conversational tone.
Well, we've talked about,
and
and I've said to them, like, if, I think I even have a chart, it might have been one of to making sure you're how to make sure you're understanding what you read.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things is going back and rereading.
looking
If you're
again
not
if it's-
sure, go back and reread and, see what it says. So I think that's something that they're, used to doing, but.
Thank you again.
Anything else? Thank you.
Would you? I'd like us to talk about that, Dr. Pinkerton, and do some more to debrief that
Okay.
with the whole grade level.
Okay.
So maybe one day next week we can do that together, even though it's not our week, but we missed this week.
Okay.
I don't know if we can make it happen or not, but I think that would be nice to do, and
Just let us
then
know. For all of third grade to come.
yeah, that would be nice.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
And then you can totally have a copy of my crazy notes if you want them, but you can see that I just basically wrote down exactly. I might want to use some of this though, just to show like other people that like look at all the different that goes on within all the thinking that goes on.
I'm happy to see that.
I
Because when you're
know.
doing the questioning,
I know,
you're not really, not thinking, this is this level, and this, which I probably
Yeah, you
should do.
don't-
But
You know, you don't realize that.
that they're thinking, deeper than you
Then you realize.
realize that they are.
Mhm. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Kim.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
That was fun.